Just need somebody to confirm. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for confirming. So yeah, you're welcome everybody. This is the first time we are going live, and I will continue to do this regularly. So tomorrow, today might be bumpy because we are just trying it out. There are some technology issues, but we're gonna go past them. So today's topic is we want to deploy a DHCP server that would that will monitor different that will be useful for different VLANs. That's what we'll be doing today. Uh, mm, we'll be deploying a DHCP server to serve different VLANs. So I title it deploying a DHCP server. Okay. CPC server across several VLANs. Okay. Across several VLANs. So the first thing is that what is a DHCP? We all know what an IP address is, right? Okay, we all know what an IP address is. Every device on a network has an IP address. Okay, every device on a network has an IP address, and this IP address can be obtained either automatically. Okay, either automatic. It can be automatic. That means that a DHCP server is available. You use a DHCP server. Okay, you use a DHCP server to issue out um, an IP address. So it's either you use a DHCP server or you assign it manually. And what is the full meaning of DHCP? Okay, that's dynamic host configuration configuration protocol. Okay, so we mean that a new host is joining the network, right? And you want to assign an IP address, you want to assign the subnet mask, you want to assign the gateway, you want to assign the DNS. Every utility that the new server or the new host we need on the network, you want to assign it to it automatically. So that is done by DHCP server. Okay. Um, Normally, you can also have this done by a firewall, which is what most of us are probably um, used to. You can deploy it by using a firewall, okay, but in a big environment, in a big corporate setting, you actually use a DHCP server, which is like a Windows service. Okay, so if your environment is so big, you can actually dedicate a server for this particular service. Okay, that's how it is done in an enterprise environment. You don't rely on a firewall. Okay, so you can have your DHCP assignment given to a specific server on your network. And how to deploy that is what we'll be doing today. Okay, so that's the background, and we'll just switch straight to the environment to do that configuration. Okay, um, this series is going to continue because I intend to explore various Windows technology to administer a Windows network. So the first one is the IP address, is the DHCP service, because every device on the network must have an IP address. That's why we are starting with the DHCP server. We're still gonna go into Active Directory. Gonna go into how to administer Active Directory. we'll go into update, update service using WSUS. That's another service. But today we just focus on DHCP service. Okay. So I've already added the server. This server is going to be that's going to be our DHCP server. I'm just going to add some other nodes as well. By the way, this is EVNG, is our network emulation software. So you can actually deploy it on your own if you want. But if you want me to make a video that also details out how this is developed, how this is done, I can I can do that in maybe a subsequent video. But it's a virtual environment that allows you to demonstrate, in a virtual way, to model a particular network, like we are doing right now. So we have these servers, and we are going to have some client as well. So I'm just going to add a switch, okay, that is going to connect all the clients together. So this is our switch. I'm going to place it here. Then we should have a firewall as well. Okay, the firewall we'll be using today is a Fortinet FortiGate. Is a FortiGate firewall. Okay, so we have that here. This is gonna be our management PC, and we're gonna have an internet link as well. Okay, so this is be our internet link is gonna be here. Oh, what did I choose there? I need to choose not bridge. I should choose management. Okay, so we'll start making the connection first from the firewall to the internet. Okay, then we'll make a connection from firewall to our management PC, right? Then we'll make a connection from our switch to the firewall. This is how a typical network is in an enterprise environment. Okay, you have your firewall talking to the internet directly, and this is like an internal switch that creates the network. Then you can now connect all the clients to a switch. As you can see, this is us building up our network from scratch. um, then of course they need to get an IP, which is what we are going to be doing today. Okay, so we have all these connected. Okay, then finally we're going to connect our server, right? Which is this is our DHCP server to the network. Okay, before we go ahead, I would like to properly create. This is the management LAN. I will say management LAN, and the IP address we'll be using will be I will say 192.168.100.0. That's gonna be our management LAN. Okay, this is gonna be our management LAN, right? Then our LAN, the main LAN here, which is our local area network as well. We can say we can actually say this will be different VLANs. Okay, let's call this one VLAN, sales VLAN, because we are deploying the DHCP across different VLANs. So we can say this one is sales VLAN 10. Okay, and the IP address is gonna be 10.10.10, okay, dot 0/24. That's gonna be the network address for that VLAN. So we can just place it here. So these two pieces belong to the sales VLAN. Okay. So let's say here with the server, it says server VLAN. So it says server VLAN 20, and the IP address is gonna be 10.10.20 because it's VLAN 20 dot 0/24. Okay, so we'll put that there. So this is gonna be our server VLAN. We'll use .200 for the server just to be able to remember properly. All right. Um, Another thing is so for this one, let's call it admin VLAN. So you say admin VLAN 30. Okay, admin VLAN 30, and the IP address is gonna be 10.10.30 because it's 30 VLAN dot 0/24, right? So we'll save again. So we bring this one here. All right. So yeah, we are done with all the labeling, and we're gonna give our management LAN. Sorry, the Fortinet is gonna be .1, while we'll give our management PC here. This is gonna be our management PC. We'll give it dot. So this is our management PC, and it's gonna get .100. Okay. So yeah, so now we can start powering up our devices. So the first thing, let's power up the Fortinet. So just right click and we click on start. So when you see the color changes, that means the Fortinet is up. So so to configure, you can just click on it and open it up. Okay. So this is the Fortinet. This is the firewall. The username, the default username is admin, okay, with no password. Yeah, it's gonna prompt us for password later. So, but we just need to do initial configuration, basically to set up the IP address and to allow access to the management plane by enabling HTTP and HTTPS. So we say config sys interface. Okay, and we need to edit that port 2. Is by default automatic, but we want to configure manual. So edit port 2. Okay, and we just need to set the IP. Set IP. You can also follow this management IP here. And that's gonna be 192.168.100. Like I said, we'll give it .1, and the subnet mask is /24. /24 means 255.255.255.0. Okay, press enter. Then we set the protocol. So set allow access, HTTP, HTTPS, SSH ping, meaning that we'll be able to manage the firewall over this protocol, and we'll be able to ping the interface as well. So you hit enter. To save the configuration, you just need to type end. Okay, that's all we need to do with the firewall at this time. So I can close this, then I can open up start the management PC as well, because we're gonna have to configure all these VLANs on the firewall. So so I'm starting the management PC. So you just click and open it up. And our management PC should be be up and running. So this are management PC. Like I said earlier, we're going to assign it this IP address but dot 100. So yeah, our management PC is up. So I'm going to control alt delete. I will log in to the management PC. The first thing we need to do is to configure the IP address for the management PC. As it is right now, it doesn't have an IP address. So if you go to this computer icon, right click on open network, change adapter settings, then you see the Ethernet here. So just right click and go to properties. By default it's set to auto. So we're not using version 6, so I normally like to remove version 6. So what we want to use is version 4 of the IP. So you can highlight it and go to properties. You can see that it's set to obtain the IP address automatically. So but we are using manual configuration for the management PC. So I'm going to choose manual, and the IP address will follow this. That's 192.168.100, and we want to use dot 100, which is the specific address. You go to subnet mask, that's okay, and the default gateway is going to be the IP address of the firewall. Okay. I believe we gave the firewall dot one, right? Yeah, I think so. Okay, otherwise it's not gonna work. So 192.168.100 dot one. I believe that's what we gave the firewall. DNS, you can just give this 8.8.8.8. That's Google DNS. So click OK, close. So you can see the firewall, I mean the management PC has connected to this firewall. So we say yes. So if you want to confirm the IP, if you go to the command prompt, to get an IP address of any PC, you apply command IP config. Okay. As you can see, this is the PC we just configured, 192.168.100.100, and the gateway is the gateway of the firewall, which is 100.1. Let's see whether we can read the firewall, which we should be able to. 192.168. To try to reach, you use ping command. You type ping and you type the IP address that you are trying to reach. 100.1, that's the gateway, which is our firewall. You can see that it's replying. So that means this management PC can reach the firewall. Okay, that's good to know. I can minimize. Then to manage this firewall using this PC, you just need to type the IP address on the browser. So if you go to the browser, type the IP address of the firewall, 192.168.100.1. That should bring up the management interface for this firewall. Okay, again, the default username is admin, and the password is no password. It's going to prompt us to change the password. Okay, so we can change the password to something you can remember. Okay, okay, then it will ask you to log in again. So I'm gonna log in with my password now. Okay, I can save it. So this is the interface of the firewall. Okay, now we are inside this firewall now. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to configure all these VLANs that we have. We have the sales VLAN, we have the server VLAN, we have the admin VLAN, and they are all connected to the physical port 3 on the firewall. Okay, they are connected to physical port 3 on the firewall. And also don't forget that Our DHCP server is on this VLAN, and like I said, we're gonna give it .200 because we need to reference that on the firewall. So now, so to configure the interfaces, let's go to network, go to interfaces. Okay, this is our port 1, which is connected to the internet. Okay, so we can actually rename that and give it an alias that is our internet. Okay, that's our internet. The role there is a 1. Okay, that's wide area network. That's where your internet is connected to. Okay, and you can see that port 2, that's our management PC, so we can label that one as well appropriately. Just say edit and call it management. Okay, that one too is a LAN, and say okay. Okay, the port 3 is our LAN, but because there are 3 VLANs there, so we're going to define each of them. So to create each VLAN, you say create new, go to the interface. The first one is our sales VLAN. So we say sales VLAN, okay, alias sales. So it's a VLAN and it's connected through port 3, right? All of them are connected through port 3 of the firewall. So we'll give it port 3 and the VLAN number is 10. So give it 10. The role is a LAN, and we're going to add give it an IP address for the VLAN interface. Okay, we'll use .1, which is going to be the interface VLAN interface of this VLAN on the firewall. So we'll follow this address, network address, but we're going to give it .1. That will be the interface that this VLAN is connected to on this firewall. It's going to be a virtual interface. That's why it's VLAN. Okay, so that will be 10.10.10.1, right? Slash 24. That's the VLAN interface. And on that interface, we want to enable ping so that we can ensure connectivity. Then you can see where you have DHCP server. So we're going to enable it. And it has already started the DHCP range, right? Now you use this one if you want the firewall to control the DHCP. Okay, but in our case, we don't want the firewall to control the DHCP. We want the Windows server to control the DHCP. Okay, this is probably the one that most of you guys are used to, but we want to use this Windows to configure the DHCP. So now, unfortunately, this is the way it is done. Instead of going ahead, you just say you go to advanced, okay, and you say like you choose this mode. Server means that the Fortinet, the firewall is handling the DHCP service. But if you choose relay, that means it's going to forward the DHCP service. Anybody that's looking for DHCP service on the network is going to forward it to the DHCP server. So in our case, this what we are going to put here is the IP address of this our Windows server, which is our DHCP server. Okay, that's the main configuration change. Okay, as far as this exercise is concerned, if you are using the firewall as the DHCP server, you leave it here. Okay, and it's going to assign all this. But if you want to use in a big enterprise settings where you have a dedicated server, but for DHCPs you use relay. Okay, and you just type the IP address of the server. So every device that is connected to the network looking for DHCP service, the firewall is going to forward this IP address to it. and the IP address will be 10.10.20.200. Okay, which is going to be the IP address that will assign to this. Okay, that's all you need to do. 10.10.20.200. Yeah, that's all you need to do. Just click on OK. Okay, so that does it for the first VLAN. You do the same thing for server VLAN in case we have any other client on that server VLAN. So again, that's going to be server VLAN, and the alias is going to be server. Okay, VLAN port 3 is connected to the firewall through port 3, and the VLAN ID is 20. So you know, give it 20. Okay. Um, Again, we assign the IP address of the interface. That will be 10.10.20.1/24. Okay, again, we want to assign allow ping, and we want to enable DHCP server. Just the same way, we go to advanced, we go to relay, and type the IP address of our DHCP, which is this guy. That's all we need to do. Click on OK. So, and that should appear under the port 3. We have the server VLAN. Then we need to create the last one, which is admin. That's going to be create new interface, and that one is going to be admin, right? Admin VLAN, and the alias, of course, is going to be admin. So it's a VLAN is connected to through port 3, and the VLAN ID is 30. Okay, it's also a LAN. We're assigning an IP address to be .1 as well for that VLAN, which is going to be 10.10.30.1/24. We're going to enable ping, enable DHCP server, and go to advanced, and we're going to choose relay, and we'll type the IP address of the DHCP server. Okay, so again, click on OK. Yeah, and that's it. So you can see we have all our VLANs connected here. That's what we need to do on the that's all we need to do on the firewall for now. So I can minimize this for now. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to power up our switch. We need to power up the switch, and also you need to know that I'm coming just so done. So you also need to know that uh this switch is a layer. Yeah, it has a. We need to configure different VLANs on it. Okay, so we need to register that we have all these VLANs, and we need to assign each of the ports to the specific VLANs that we have here. So we open the switch, just click on it. If you just click on it, just click on the switch. This is the switch here. Press enter. Enable. I don't know whether I can change, whether I can increase the font. Appearance change. I want to increase the font so it to be big enough. Okay. Okay, yeah, I think I'm able to do that. Okay. So so this is the switch config. T to start the configuration. The first thing is to define all the VLANs. So I'm going to say VLAN 10. Okay. That's our sales VLAN. Then VLAN 20. That's our server VLAN. Okay. VLAN 30. That's our admin VLAN. All right. So if you go here and say show, if you say show VLAN, you can see we have all our three VLANs: sales, server, and admin. Okay. Now what we now need to do is to assign each of these ports, okay, to their respective VLAN. Okay, so that like for example, GI0-2 is going to assign to be VLAN 10, so that when this Windows computer is connected, when 2 is connected, it's going to assign it a VLAN, sales VLAN IP. So we need to assign individually all these ports. Okay. To do that, let's go back to config T. Okay, so let's start from here. GI02 interface GI0-2. Okay, we say switch port mode access. Okay, meaning it's going to be an access port. You can have two ports. There is access port and there is a trunk port. Access port is where you connect the endpoint. Trunk port will carry all the VLANs. Okay, so access port would define a specific VLAN. So switch port mode access and would define the VLAN that will be there. That will be switch port access VLAN 10, because that's VLAN 10 area. Okay, that's done. Again, go to the interface, the second one, which is GI0-1. um yeah, so 0-1, the same thing, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10. So we have configured that of VLAN 10. Then we need to switch to the server VLAN, that's GI1-1. So interface GI1-1, enter. Okay, switch port mode is also going to be access, and switch port mode access VLAN 20. Okay, so that's for the server VLAN. For the admin VLAN, the same thing. We go to interface GI 0-3, which is this guy, 0-3. Okay, enter. The same thing, go to, it's going to be mode is going to be access, and the VLAN is going to be VLAN 30. So just get that. Okay, then the last port is going to be interface GI 1-0, right? GI 1-0, yes. Okay, the mode is going to be access, and it's going to be access VLAN 30. Okay, that's all. Then the last one, which is GI0-0, as you can see, that's the port that is connected directly to the firewall. So this one is going to be a trunk port, because it's going to carry all the VLANs, okay, across to the firewall. So we'll configure that one as a trunk port. So to do that, so again, let's access that interface. That's interface GI 0-0. Okay, switch port mode. No, switch port. We need to first do a encapsulation there. Switch port trunk encapsulation dot 1Q. Okay, then we say switch port mode trunk. Okay, not access. That's a trunk port. Then we're going to specify the VLAN to allow on that trunk. So that's going to be switch port uh, trunk, allowed VLAN. We're gonna allow VLAN 10, VLAN 20, and VLAN 30 on it. Okay. So if you go back to the switch and say show VLAN and say show VLAN, you will now see that for each of the VLANs we have assigned the specific port. Okay, like you can see for sales is GI01 and 02, which corresponds to what we have here. For server, for now, we only have GI1-1 interface connected to the server. And for the admin VLAN, we have GI0-3, GI1-0. Okay, so this is to confirm that your configuration is okay. To confirm that the trunk that you have enabled all the VLANs on the trunk, and say show trunk interface. Am I right with that? No, I think it's show is the other way around. That should be show interface trunk. Okay, so as you can see on all these ports, on all these on GI0-0, I've allowed 10, 20, and 30. So the configuration is fine. So to save this configuration is WR. Okay, that will save the configuration on the switch, and that's all we need to do on that switch. So I can close it. Okay, I can close it. So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is now to set up our DHCP server here. Okay, so I'm going to start the server. I'm going to start the server. I can open it and open it as well. So this is a normal Windows server. Uh, oh, our window has crashed. So we have to wait for that. While we are waiting for it to restart, this is a normal Windows server that we want to make as a DHCP server. So the DHCP server, like I said earlier, is a service, right? Is a service that need to run on this Windows server. So we'll go and add that row. We'll go and add that service once the server boots. Okay. Somebody say my volume is low. Is my volume low to other people as well? It shouldn't be low. Is at the maximum. Maximum volume is being sent to this stream. And somebody earlier confirmed that it's loud and clear. So I'll log on to the server, test 1, 2, 3. Maybe you check your audio. Maybe you can increase it. So I'm logging on to this server, and the essence for us is to configure the DHCP service, okay? And that's going to be our third, the last stage. The first stage is to build the network, set the firewall, do all the configuration. The second stage is to set up your switch, and the last stage now is to configure the actual DHCP server. Okay, let's wait for it's going to load the server manager. So all we need, okay, before we do that, let's go and assign the IP address. Remember we said it's going to be .200, so that's the first thing we need to do, and it has to be a manual IP. No, it can't be automatic. Otherwise, when it changes, all the clients will lose sight of the DHCP server. That's why we have to configure it manually. Okay, so we just need to go to Ethernet. Okay, change adapter options. Or go to network and sharing center. Okay, so with this where we assign the IP address, so same thing, right click, just close this, right click, the same thing. I don't want version 6. I'm gonna remove that version 6. So I highlight version 4, go to properties, and say use the following IP. So we're gonna use .200. Remember that was what we use on the firewall. So this will be 10.10.20, right? Yeah, dot 200. So subnet mask will be 255 255 255, and the gateway is going to be interface on the firewall. That's 10.10.20.1. Then the DNS is Google 8.8.8.8. All right, so we say okay, close. Yeah, and that's the first thing. You can see it has connected to the interface of the firewall already. So that's the first thing we do. The second thing we need to do on that server is go and add the DHCP service. Okay, so if you go to tools, no, you go to manage, then just go to add roles and features. Okay, add roles and features, because it's a feature, it's a service. So just say next, next, then um, make sure that DHCP server is selected. You can see that's the DHCP server here. So if you click on that, gonna open this. So add all the features. Then it is now a DHCP server. So click on next, next, next. So you say restart if you need to. Yes. Install. So at this stage is making this server a DHCP server. Okay, is installing DHCP service on it. That's what it's doing right now. Otherwise, it's just a normal Windows server if you don't install this service. So we're installing the service as it is. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Subscribe to the channel. Uh, we'll be doing a lot of demonstration, different technologies, different topics. So is installing that service currently. Once the installation is done, that's all we need to do. So the next thing will be for us to start verifying whether our installation worked or not. So we'll be we'll be starting up each of these servers, and we'll be checking whether they get an IP address as well. But before we start the installation, we need to configure. What we are doing right now is to install the DHCP service. After this, we need to also configure the service as well. You know, we call it scope. we need to define each scope, DHCP scope, because the scope for the sales VLAN is going to be different for the scope for the server VLAN, and that's going to be different for the admin VLAN as well. So once the installation is completed, we will define the scope and also authorize this service. Authorize the server to act as a DHCP server. Okay, so you need to define the scope and you also need to authorize this server, you know, to be a DHCP server over this network. Okay, so it's not supposed to take this long. Don't know why, but yeah, we have to wait for it. We have to wait for it. Okay, yeah, it has finished. You can see configuration required, installation succeeded. So you just need to close. You can see you have an exclamation mark telling you that you need to do the DHCP configuration. So we click on config, you say commit, okay, uh, close. Okay, so now to configure the DHCP, all you need to go to tools and look for DHCP. Okay, so if you click on that, then it's gonna bring up DHCP configuration panel. Okay, which is this guy. This is the configuration server. This is our server. Okay, if you expand it, you will see we'll be doing the configuration on IPv4. We're not using IPv6. Okay, so now, like I said, we need to configure the scope. Okay, so if you right click, you say new scope. Okay, choose next. The first scope is going to be sales VLAN scope. Okay, that's going to be the first scope to configure. And we'll say for sales VLAN, where does the IP address start from and where does it end? So we want it to follow this format. So it's going to start from 10.10.10.101. Okay, let it start from 101. You can define anything you want, and we want the last IP to be 10.10.10.200. So that means 100 devices. You are locating automatic IP addresses. Okay, and subnet mask is going to be 24, which is 255.255.255, 24. So you specify it. So next is if you need to do any exclusion or delay, we know we are not doing any of that. So you just go to next. Then another thing is that you can configure how long you want to lease, because that's like leasing out the IP address to the client. You can specify how long it's going to do that. So this one is saying 8 days. That's the default. Okay. So after 8 days, the IP address will expire. So the DHCP is going to allocate a new IP address to the client. Okay, and it will keep changing like that. That's why it's dynamic. That's why they call it dynamic host configuration protocol. Okay, but in a typical setting, you can give it like maybe if you don't have too many clients. Okay, if you don't have too many clients, you can give it like 1 month or 2 months. But if you are in an environment whereby you have very large clients, people, do connect to the network, you can leave it as 1 week, okay, so that people don't just book off all the IP addresses. So we'll leave our own at 8 days. The next thing It's saying whether you want to configure some options. Yeah, we'll say yes. Some other options, like for example, the gateway. They also need a gateway address. So, and the gateway, like we said, is going to be the interface of the firewall. So, you configure 10.10.10.1, right? So, all the IP address in this scope, they will have this gateway. So, you add it and say next. Next is the DNS. Okay, we are not configuring domain. So next is the DNS. The DNS, it has you so like for this particular server, we used Google DNS. So you can add more by typing more. Like I can also type 8.8.8, no 8.8.4.4. That's another Sorry, that's another Google DNS 8.8.8, no 8.8.4.4. So you can add that. Okay, so it's gonna validate that. We actually don't know. One is okay. It's not able to validate it. Do you still want to add it? Yeah, I can say yes. That's not a problem. So meaning that it's going to add this to for every client that is given an IP address, it will also add this DNS together for them. So say next. Win server, we don't need that at this age. That's for old systems. So just skip that. And you want to activate the scope now? We'll say yeah, yes. So finish. So that scope is configured. So we now have sales VLAN scope. So we need to also define the two other scope, which is for server VLAN. This is going to be server VLAN 20. Okay. The same thing, the IP address should follow this format. That's going to be 10.10.20.101, and it's going to end with 10.10.20.200. Okay, so next, we are not doing any exclusion. The list is okay. We want to configure some options. So the gateway again, that will be 10.10.20.1, which is the VLAN interface. You add that, say next. I'm not going to add another DNS server. Let it use the current one, okay? 8.8.8, that's okay. Next, Win server, we can skip that. Yes, we want to activate and finish. The scope parameter, either scope already exists. Oh, okay. I think that must be our subnet mask, I think. Yeah, the subnet, no, not this one. The subnet mask is not consistent. 10.10.20.101, right? So yeah, subnet mask should be 24. Okay, 24. What's wrong with you? Okay, 24. Next, 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 next. 10.10.20. Yeah, next, next. Yeah, I want to activate. Finish. Yeah, that's it. Then the last one, say new scope, which is that's the admin. So name it admin VLAN 30. Okay, sorry. So say next. So IP address, that one should also start 10.10.30.101 and it should end 10.10.30.200. Subnet mask 24. Okay, so next, we are not doing any exclusion. The list duration is okay. We are activating the scope. Yeah, the gateway will also be 10.10.30.1. Okay, hard. That's going to be the gateway. Next, the Google DNS is okay. Next, we are not using wins. We want to activate it. Finish. Okay, now we have configured all these scope and we have activated them. The last thing we want to do is to authorize the server. We need to authorize it. Um, or has it already authorized? If I add manage authorized server, hmm. So this is gonna be the server. You're supposed, okay, I think it's already starting. Um, mm, mm, mm. Does that mean it's authorized automatically? Normally, you're supposed to authorize it. Let's see. Yeah, this server. Anyway, it looks like it's activated already. So that's all we need to do. Um, let's go and start testing out the client. So I'm going to minimize this and I will just start with this guy. So we start it up. So this is like a new client joining the network. We want to see whether it got an IP address. So it's booting up. Assume you just connected it to the switch and you want to see whether it got an IP address. Okay, so let's log on. That's the password and yeah, you can see it has connected to the network, meaning that it has gotten an IP address. I think when it says activate scope, it has already automatically authorized this to be the DHCP. So if you go to command prompt and type that command ipconfig, okay, say ipconfig, okay, you will see that it has gotten the IP address in the range of the sales VLAN. Okay, if you want to confirm that it's getting it from this server, the same thing ipconfig but put slash all. Okay, enter. You will now see that it says DHCP is enabled, right? You can see the list obtained. The list obtained is from today 8 days, just like the default. You can see it got the default gateway as .1 and this is the DHCP server. Okay, which is 10.10.20.200. So even though he's on sales VLAN, he's getting his IP address from server VLAN, which is this computer here. Okay, so that means our DHCP is working. Okay, if we let's test out another VLAN, which is this admin VLAN. Okay, if we start one of those machines up and we click on and we open it, we should be we are expecting an IP address that is coming from this admin VLAN. So these computers should also get IP address from this server, and remember it belongs to another VLAN. So we're gonna do that now. So you can say that's test 1 2, and you should get an IP address. This is Windows 4 now. You can see it has also connected to the network, and if you bring up command prompt and you type ipconfig, you see that it got an IP address that is in VLAN 30, which is this one. Okay, and if you want to know which DHCP server, again ipconfig/all, enter. So you see that the DHCP server also is .200, and the lease will expire in 8 days time. Okay, so yeah, so that is how to implement a DHCP service in a Windows environment, okay, without using the firewall. So you can use the server, and it can dish out DHCP in several VLANs. So that is what we want to cover today. I hope you learned one or two things. I hope um, I hope you learn one or two things. You can go and try it out in your own lab environment, and I hope you enjoy the lab. I can take a few questions on the chat if you need if you have any clarification before we end the broadcast. Okay, if there is no question, thank you so much for joining the live today. This is our maiden um, lab session online live. We'll do another one in maybe in 2 weeks' time, um, and we'll come with another topic entirely. So thank you so much for joining. Like the video if you've not done so. Subscribe to the channel, and you can share to your friends and family as well. So you can also turn on the notification settings button on the YouTube channel, and so that next time we go online, you will know. Okay, thank you everyone, and I'll catch up with you in another broadcast session. Thank you, and take care. Cheers, guys. Bye.